I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Lynette Danley, Ph.D., to Blue Island. When they say you meet people by networking, Dr. Mary Bruce, I called her, because I always talk and see who I could find to help out with the meeting. Sometimes people in Blue Island, sometimes it's people outside. And she said, I know the perfect person for you. Because this year, sorry guys, it's all about women. The whole program is, usually I be doing about guys, but this year it's all about women who've changed history. And Professor, she also have a foundation too that help women. So I would like all of you to give her a warm welcome, and she's going to do a documentary on Harriet Tubman.
Thank you. First, I want to thank God so much. I've been really, really sick. I said first I want to thank God. He was totally the head of my life. I've been really, really sick, and but I'm so glad that I came. I'm filled with so much joy and so much peace. And I share, and really quickly, I just want to say, with some of the loss of life is really, really hard. Just being inflicted by gun violence. My family, my brother was murdered, and so I understand that. I come from the west side of Chicago at a very early age, ran away, was homeless, moved out with my aunt and uncle in Blue Island, and family. My cousin attended Morgan Park. And so I can relate to a lot of the pain, the hardships, but also the perseverance. So before I get started, I want to say that my doctor is for do remember where you come from. My bachelor's is my blessed assurance. My master's is my mercy, my salvation, the everlasting, and my Ph.D. is for my praise, my healing, and my deliverance. All right. I want to thank Rachel for her selfless activism and the committee for organizing this Black Cultural Night for the Neighborhood Watch, number 37, for Blue Island in this community. I want to extend my respect to the dignitaries, representatives, law enforcement officers, just teachers, entrepreneurs. It really does take a village, us being here together. My soror, Joy, Baisley, we met at undergrad. We've been inseparable since, and so she was like, let's go, let's do it, I got you. And so I want to always thank her for being here. Not only is it befitting to honor Harriet Tubman during Black History Month, to me any day, any month, any year, any time, she's just an amazing figure, but particularly during this time. And I do like us honoring Black women. It doesn't take away from any other experience, but we have been so resilient in the face of so many obstacles historically. We've held it down, we've held it together, and so I really do appreciate the opportunity to honor her. We want to go back to 1820 to 22, and you have to think about in times where birth records were not kept. So Harriet Tubman is said to have been born around that time, and she was born in Maryland. And she was one of 9 siblings. During that time, of course, there's slavery, there is poverty, extreme violence, homelessness, and equitable education and opportunities, very similar to today. And one of the things that is going to be a guiding theme through my talk, and we'll have about 18 more minutes, but I'm very conversational in my style. When I was reading or revisiting her history, back into the fields to work stuck out. At the age of 12, and historians, there's different accounts, though the same result comes. She was hit in the head. One story says that she was working in the field and the slave owner threw a weight and hit her. Another one was saying that she was going to the store. And another slave was trying to flee and the slave owner asked for her assistance. She refused and he threw the weight and she was struck. Nevertheless, she was hit. And this is important because at that age, she then developed severe epilepsy and severe headaches. She started to have visions and believed those visions that God was speaking to her. After being struck, she still had to work. She had to go back into the field, which is very, to me, indicative of us. Despite what may happen to you, even when those young kids had to come up here and stand with their father ahead of them, the pain of that is really hard. But to me, I like to think that he's chilling in heaven, and that he's still in front of them, and that he has them always. And very much like Harriet Tubman, throughout so much loss and being separated from her family, that type of pain we have had to learn how to live with. She would escape around the age of 29. And what was important, the fight in her started from her mother. She and her brothers ran away, and they wanted to go back. And when she went back, the slave master wanted to kill the brother, and the mom said, "You have to get through me first." Seeing that fight in her mom and having a taste of freedom, she would start her journey going from Maryland to New York to Mexico to Canada, and she would make 13 trips and freeing several hundreds of slaves over the course of her life. She joined the Army, and this is fascinating to me. She was a nurse, she was a cook, and she was a spy during the Civil War. Very busy from 1822 until 1913. And she spent many years working with John Drew, an abolitionist. And this is the part that's always hard, because she knew how to navigate the different routes. They called her Moses because she was leading people out of slavery, and the conductor of the Underground Railroad, which wasn't necessarily underground, but it would be houses and churches and community centers where people would help her safely house people until they get to the next destination. This is important because when we talk about relationships, it wasn't just black people that helped her. It was people that looked very much like the individuals in this room that believed that was white and black and Mexican and Native Americans, indigenous groups, who said that this is wrong. It makes me think about, when you think about the song Amazing Grace, many people know we sing it in hymnals, funerals, weddings, just because at church, but it was written by a white man who saw the atrocities of slavery. Very much like Strange Fruit. We know it from Billie Holiday singing it, but it too was written by a white man. I say all this to say that Harriet Tubman built a relationship with individuals that understood that humanity was in different colors, and that we were going to have to work together, and that we were all needed. That was really important. So odds stacked against us, she would make, again, like I said, several trips in her lifetime. Even with her service to the military, even with her buying her freedom and the freedom of several members of her family, she had to fight for her pension. With her pension, she purchased the AME Church, a retirement center for the elderly, and made significant contributions in her lifetimes in terms of giving back. She was married and divorced twice, spent most of her life sick. But I say that to say sometimes we think that when we go through things in life, we are not equipped to be a representative, to work with people. But God is no respecter of persons. And when he places and touches you and gives you a charge, a vision, and a gift, even to the risk of your life, he won't send you anywhere that he's not going to cover you. And so I see her presence in this work here this evening, I want to read the scripture to the youth in particular. You are young, but do not let anyone treat you as if you were not important. Be an example to show the believers how they should live. Show them with your words, with the way you live, with your love, with your faith, and with your pure life. 1 Timothy 4:12. And one of the things that she used to say is, it could be, how can I say, it's conflicting reports about her saying that she would have freed more people if only they would have known that they were enslaved. But that is a very narrow, only thinking about one way in terms of a physical thing. And I want to say that sometimes where you are in life, a particular condition, a situation, a circumstance, you use that for, you may not understand why that is happening to you at that moment, but trust me, it will be beneficial for you later. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk just a little bit about her. The things about her action that came with awareness and accountability. How she used, even though she was illiterate and could not read, her informal education, her paying attention, she educated a nation. And so I want to just impress upon you, whether you are going to work back in the fields, if it's a classroom, as a student, as a teacher, as a police officer, as a parent. We talk about our children being lost. There's accountability in terms of where are the parents and the grandparents, the adults in the room. What examples are we setting? There's accountability on both parts. And when I look at her life and the sacrifices that she made, she died in 1913. And just in that span, she was so selfless in her sacrifice. So I just ask that you think about, what will the world know you for? What will they remember you for? Whose life will you touch and make better? And what will history read and say about you? So thank you so much.